Sorry, I'm late. Good evening, welcome to Otaking seminar. This is Toshio Okada. I was panicking over my visual aids until the last minute because I realized I hadn't printed them out. Sorry about that. I'll start tonight's lecture by paying tribute to the memory of Isao Takahata. 2 days ago, his The Tale of Princess Kaguya was on TV. When I featured Grave of the Fireflies last month, I thought the next lecture about Takahata would be in a year. Surprisingly, I'm doing another one this soon. For a good reason, though. But I'm thinking maybe I'll have to do another one in August, which is scary. Anyway, let's start. So take a look at this. This is a screenshot of an introduction page of Amazon Prime. On Amazon, you can rent the complete lecture of Grave of the Fireflies from Otaking seminar. Grave of the Fireflies 1,000 times scarier than it actually looks. This is to save those who can't stand paying a fee to Duango or those who hate the monthly payment system. Try this one out. It's so much harder to sell videos through Amazon, getting the approval and all that. I don't think we can immediately upload all lectures on Amazon, so we just made one to see how it goes. Those who are only watching the free part but want to see the whole lecture, or those who are hesitating to become a member, please try Amazon. That being said, let's start. Today's lecture, The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Now, I'm presuming all of you have watched the movie. Everyone okay with that? Is that cool? I won't do a questionnaire to check if you have. So, I went through the regular routine of checking people's comments on Twitter after they watched the movie on TV, and these were some of the mainstream comments. First, it was painful to see Kaguya living life to the fullest, only to be separated from her parents. Second, the movie was about contemporary women who are forced to play the role of a stereotypical female, which touched me. Third, I don't know why I'm crying. These are rather positive comments. There were also some negative comments. Amazingly made, but not fun to watch. And many wrote, all male characters are scumbags. And last, I don't know why, but I don't like this movie. Now, I have an idea. Why don't we do a questionnaire using these comments? Those of you who stopped watching the movie halfway can also join it. Now, give me your answer. Okay. How is it? You might have multiple answers, but pick the one that speaks to you the most. It's painful to see the parting scene. It's a touchy movie about contemporary women. I don't know why I'm crying. Amazing movie, but not fun. All men in the movie are scumbags. I don't know why, but I don't like this movie. Okay, finished? Well, can I see the result? Oh, wow! 50% of you chose amazing but not interesting. 10% chose I don't know why I'm crying. 12% scumbags. 13% I don't like it. Interesting result. This type of honest questionnaire regarding Ghibli movies is usually pretty impossible to do. So I'm quite surprised by the result. Wow. Oh, you guys could predict the result? There's a comment, I couldn't stop crying from the start. Right, some people cry from the first scene, but some of you were like, okay, what am I watching? All the way through the movie. Now, let me read a letter from a member of the salon I run on Facebook. Her name is Nanako Yamazaki. I was simply amazed by the animation, how the cloth flies in the air obviously, the tottery movement of the baby, and the lively movement of Kaguya. Every movement of the people and objects have been thoroughly calculated to the finest details. It felt so good to look at them, and I didn't want to miss a second of it. People who were impressed by the animation would say this. She continues, the movie has perfect control on animation, more so than this corner of the world. What a euphorogenic experience. The scene where Sudamaru and Kaguya were flying together gave me goosebumps. The whole experience reminded me of WALL-E by Pixar. I think the art style was rightly chosen because if the drawings were more realistic, the amount of visual information would have been overwhelming. It was also great that the contour lines of the characters react according to their emotions. The scene where Kaguya runs through the street stirred my mind, but I was more deeply moved by how the contour lines of the old man gets distorted as he affectionately calls out to Kaguya. Yamazaki-san's letter pretty much indicates what everyone else has said, so let me finish it. I was surprised to find many comical scenes in the movie. The scenes with Lady Sagami, a scene where 5 ministers compete to sit in front of Kaguya, and an indescribably annoying emperor. The realistic and sickening depiction of those men made me giggle as I felt the vicious intention of the creators. One thing I didn't get was the last scene. Why that ending? I couldn't find any hope in it. It's depressing how the happy days at the village will never return, and to think how the parents will live the rest of their lives. I find more hope in Grave of the Fireflies, where the brother and sister died together at the end. It was a bit strange how all men are depicted so stupidly. Not even one man in this movie is decent. Why did Takahata decide to depict all men as complete idiots? Sorry about the long disconnected letter. So she sounds like she's praising the movie very much. But now listen. My friend said, well made, but it felt like watching an Olympic athlete doing a forward roll. I felt the same, spending a great amount of time, money, and effort just to do a perfect forward roll. I would never be able to do such a thing. In that sense, this is a truly valuable piece of work. Like I said, her letter includes all kinds of comments. That was interesting. Miss Yamazaki is a beautiful lady who directs independent films. So join the salon if you're interested. I got many letters on the bulletin board, and they all say something similar. And there's a reason why they think this way. So let me compare The Tale of Princess Kaguya to Grave of the Fireflies. I told you in the last lecture that Grave of the Fireflies is not an anti-war film. Takahata himself denied it many times as well. But many people believe that it tells how wars are foolish by depicting children being tossed around by the war and pity them. I would say the fresh cream is too delicious. Let me explain what I mean by fresh cream. Last week, Tokyo Disneyland was featured on a TV program, The World Unknown to Matsuko. Actor Shunsuke Kazama introduced Disneyland, but he said, I will not touch on any of the popular themes like the latest rides, parades, food menu, or hidden Mickey Mouse. Then, he used the metaphor of fresh cream on top of a parfait to describe all those popular attractions in Disneyland. What he meant was that we shouldn't just enjoy the cream, and we should appreciate the whole parfait. It's all because of the fresh cream that is too delicious. Everyone thinks that's all there is to Disneyland. Kazama's metaphor was so well expressed, so I borrowed it from him. Similarly, The Tale of Princess Kaguya has this fresh cream on top that is too delicious. The cream here would be the gender issue or the animation quality. These two are too well made. Because of that, we misunderstand that they are the real themes. Well, I see a comment saying, are they really delicious? Fair enough. That's like how some people don't think hidden Mickey Mouse and rides are creamy at all. About that, I'll eventually give a lecture about Disneyland. There, I'll talk about how you can enjoy visiting Disneyland alone and still enjoy it by wandering about. Now, the gender issue. Mami Amamiya wrote a blog post called Battlefield of Girls' Life on December 2nd, 2013. The article is titled A Tale of Women. The Tale of Princess Kaguya. Amamiya has an established reputation on essays about gender issues. She wrote, The Tale of Princess Kaguya shocked me. It used an orthodox old tale plot, but to clearly tell a story about contemporary women. It shook me. Amamiya sounds very enthusiastic in her article. I'm not saying her interpretation of the movie is wrong, but gender issues are not the real theme. They are fresh cream. And when I was watching The Tale of Princess Kaguya on TV 2 nights ago, Twitter was filled with comments saying all the male characters are scumbags, especially the Emperor. One tweet I found I loved was the video where someone said, "The Emperor's chin is too sharp." They even measured the angle. It was 67 degrees. I was cracking up. Smart, isn't it? Then others imitated this and started measuring the chins of other characters, like Kaiji. Twitter was filled with similar images. I couldn't stop laughing. Tsuremaru, Kaguya's childhood friend, was also attacked. At the end of the movie, Tsuremaru tells Kaguya, "Let's run away to a place where no one knows us." At this point, Tsuremaru is married and has 2 kids, yet he's willing to abandon them. So some tweeted, "So, Tsuda means abandon. How appropriate." People also wrote that all 5 nobles are scumbags, including Kaguya's adoptive father, who ignores Kaguya's feelings. This may seem true, but actually, it's just like how Grave of the Fireflies seems to be an anti-war film. There's a real theme implemented in the movie, but it's hard to see. What kind of movie is this then? To tell the truth, The Tale of Princess Kaguya is pretty erotic. And that eroticism is expressed in a straightforward manner. When the old man finds Kaguya in the bamboo forest, at that time, Kaguya was a princess who was extremely small. But as the old man takes her home and shows her to his wife, the princess turns into a baby. When the old woman is crossing the bridge with the baby in her arms, she notices the baby needs to be breastfed. The bridge comes out many times. So, I'm sure Takahata implemented a folkloristic meaning behind crossing the bridge. But I don't have time to go in depth about it. If I do, I'll run out of time. So let's move on. When the old lady tries to cross the bridge, her breasts become larger so that she can breastfeed the baby. It seems though the old couple have never had any child. Well, at least that's the impression I get from the movie. It means the old lady is a barren woman who cannot give birth. But she suddenly obtains the ability to breastfeed, which is quite typical among folktales and myths. It's a lot more subtle than other incidents, but the fact that the old lady can breastfeed, you see here, she's breastfeeding Kaguya. This is the 3rd miracle that happens in the movie. The first miracle is that Kaguya is born inside a bamboo tree. Second is that she suddenly grows inside the old man's hands. Then she suddenly grows again as she's breastfed. The old lady says, "I think she's suddenly becoming heavier." We miss out what this scene is indicating because Kaguya grows as she is breastfed, which seems natural. But the combination of the breastfeeding and the growth actually misleads us. There is a consistent rule behind the growth of Lil Bamboo, which is Kaguya's childhood name. Lil Bamboo suddenly grows only in scenes where sex is suggested. For example, Lil Bamboo suddenly grows again right after this. It's when she's chasing a frog. This is when she can't even crawl. Lil Bamboo sees a frog hopping and joyfully approaches it. Then the frog seems to get on top of another frog. The instruction on the storyboard says Lil Bamboo suddenly speeds up to chase the frog. One frog being on top of another means courtship behavior. It's called amplexus, which is different from copulation. There's no intercourse. During amplexus, the male frog goes on top of the female frog, then strongly grasps the back of the female frog. That's how the female frog lays unfertilized eggs. Then, the male frog fertilizes the released eggs. That's how they reproduce. If you think about it, there's no reason it needs to be drawn if it's a scene where the baby finds a frog and becomes happy. But the instruction on the storyboard specifically says amplexus. Lil Bamboo finds it, suddenly starts crawling. After that, she even stands up and starts walking. Lil Bamboo crawls to catch the male frog, then gives it to the old man. The old man doesn't understand what's going on, so he just says, "What a good girl," then says, "You suddenly look bigger." After this scene, the village kids who have been watching all that from the garden say, "Did she suddenly get bigger?" "She did, weird girl. She's like a little bamboo." Lil Bamboo, Lil Bamboo. They make fun of her. As the kids chant, Lil Bamboo grows even bigger. But as you can see, the village kids are all boys. There are more scenes in the village later on in the movie. But basically, any kid who plays with Little Bamboo is a boy. Of course, there are girls as well, but they're either skillfully excluded from those scenes, or they just don't hang out with Lil Bamboo. Lil Bamboo always has boys around her, kind of like the only girl in a dominantly male group. But then it's so subtly depicted that we don't notice it. We notice a boy exposing his penis and we accept the scene as it is. But we don't even think twice about how there's no girl. So the boys chant, "Lil Bamboo, Lil Bamboo." Then the old man responds with his chant, "Princess, princess." As the old man and the boys call her from both sides, Lil Bamboo grows again by a few centimeters. This means Lil Bamboo grows when she gets males' attention or interacts with them. That's what the scene depicts. So, a few days after this, she's already so much bigger. Please look at the picture on the top. Lil Bamboo is in the bamboo forest with the old man. The old man is telling her to stay back. Now look at her clothes. The sleeves are covering her wrists and the skirt is up to her ankles. It's too large for her. Then, when she is playing with wild boar piglets, the mother wild boar attacks Lil Bamboo. But Sutamaru, who is only a child at this time, comes and rescues her. Sutamaru holds Lil Bamboo while they both fall into a bush. Then, he notices that Lil Bamboo is even bigger. Sutamaru says, "Did you just get bigger?" So, you see, well, Lil Bamboo recalls this period later on after she becomes an adult. "I miss those days. I want to go back to the mountain with everyone." But everyone means men. She misses the world occupied by men. So people who are involved in gender issues claim that this movie depicts how women have been oppressed in the male society. That's easy to read from the story, but at the same time, it's hard to understand. But Takahata depicted how Lil Bamboo, or Princess Kaguya, actually is a girl who always has men around her. But it's not her nature to do so. It's probably her attribute. When Princess Kaguya was sent to the earth, she must have been given that kind of power. That's what I think. But let's talk more about that later. Anyway, for now, remember how other girls are intentionally excluded from the scenes. Next, it's a scene where Lil Bamboo is bathing. When she's bathing, boys call her saying, "Come here." The boys are naked. The boys think she'd be too embarrassed because she's naked. But Lil Bamboo doesn't even hesitate for a second, takes off her clothes, and jumps into the water. The boys see that, get surprised, and go, "Wow." But when she comes out from the water, she has turned into a beautiful girl with long hair. This time, she has grown when boys see her naked. So, she grows when frogs mate, when boys and the old man call her, when Sudamaru holds her in his arms, and when the boys see her naked. There's only one explanation for this. The tale of Princess Kaguya is extremely sexually charged. Right here, you see a girl in the back holding a baby, but she's there for no reason because she doesn't do anything in this scene. And there's girls who are beating straw in another scene. But Lil Bamboo doesn't even try to join the girls' group. Instead, she leaves to play with the boys. Now, after Little Bamboo leaves to play with the boys, the pheasant incident occurs. Sudamaru catches a pheasant and kills it, which is quite impressive. And he does this classic gesture of holding the game up high. Kaguya tries to climb down the cliff to go to Sudamaru, although Sudamaru warns her. She falls, but Sudamaru catches her. When he does that, he directly grabs Kaguya by her breasts. Then Kaguya's hair grows even longer. Sudamaru sees Kaguya and says, "Did you grow again?" This too shows how Kaguya grows much faster when she interacts with the man she likes. This movie seems to depict how Kaguya depicts the subject of men's desire only after she grows into an adult. But actually, she already belongs to that kind of world from the beginning. It's not that obvious, but it is depicted. Now, let's move on to the next topic. The movie actually has many comical scenes. There are so many. And the scene right after this one is also a joke. When Sudamaru says to Kaguya, "I feel that you will grow even bigger, then leave us to go to another world." He sounds pretty serious. Then Lil Bamboo says, "Why do you say that? Lil Bamboo will always be with you, Sudamaru." It's supposed to be a romantic scene. They're this close. And she says, "Why do you say that? Lil Bamboo will always be with you, Sudamaru." The way she says it makes it sound like she's proposing. Sudamaru, too, has this look on his face. "Oh, she's proposing to me." Then Kaguya says, "I'm always going to be one of your gangs." I mean, gang? You see, it's a joke. Takahata is making a joke. However, people don't seem to get the jokes. Takahata wants the audience to laugh hearing this line. It's like saying, "I'll be your friend forever. We're BFFs." But it didn't work. There are other scenes that are supposed to be funny. For example, Kaguya puts up her hair. Then, well, she's become an adult. She has grown beautifully. It became the subject of a rumor. Then the 5 nobles compete against each other to visit her earlier than others. They visit her on their ox carts, the elegant carriages pulled by cows that usually walk slowly. But then they race on those ox carts. It's depicted from a horizontal view. Because the ox carts are moving fast, the willows or the people in the front are drawn as blurred silhouettes. If you look closely, the ox carts are running furiously by pushing all the private citizens into the ditch. Aesthetically, this is what Miyazaki animes do. Do you remember a scene from Raputa where Dola family's car makes everyone fall into the river at the Slag Ravine? Same thing is happening here. It's completely comical. It's a spectacular race scene, but by ox carts making the ordinary people fall into the water one after another. Too bad people don't find this funny. Instead, the scene is viewed as a portrayal of men's foolishness. It's supposed to be funny though, but somehow Takahata's jokes are hard to get. I mean, really, he's a skilled anime director and a storyteller, and he creates such good images. Seriously, no one can make this. The people who walk through the front and the trees are translucent. Not only that, they move like children's book illustrations. He's done something no one else could do, which takes people's breath away. So people miss out on all the comical scenes. Here too. When the five nobles arrive, Kaguya's private teacher, Lady Sagami, appears and says, "Now, if you would each speak in order of precedence." In the original story, though, they come one by one. Sure, anime needed to save time, but look how they are lined up and shot from the side. It looks just like The Bachelorette, where guys line up and propose to a girl one by one, saying, "Please be my girlfriend." But again, because the images are so well drawn, people don't get the joke. So, in the original story, Kaguya receives many proposals, but because she refuses every single one of them, everyone gives up. Until these extra dirty-minded five men remain. Then Kaguya gives them completely unreasonable demands. Takahata doesn't depict any of that process. He completely ignores the original story and no one laughs at his jokes. Later, Kaguya demands them to bring her many items like the jeweled branch of Horai Mountain. This fat guy sitting in the middle, he brings her a robe of fire-wrapped fur. He says, "This fur will never burn." Kaguya says, "Try to burn it in front of me." So the man tries to burn it. It doesn't burn. For a second, the man is relieved, but then suddenly the fur catches fire. And the man goes, "What?" This is the same type of humor that comes out of his feature film, Chia the Brat, with the same comical rhythm. But still, no one laughs at this scene in the movie. That chin of the emperor is also funny. But for some reason, no one finds these funny. This is the image of a scene where the five nobles hear the rumor about the beauty of Princess Kaguya and surround her father, who named her, who says, "Just the memory of that glimmering beauty leaves me completely lost for words." Then the five nobles turn into a wheel, then the face of the father appears in the center. At the end, only his face remains. Then the wheel of the ox cart spins. Then the race. You can read this transition as the wheel of their fate has started spinning. So you can read it as a pun. And overlapping the scene with the actual image of a wheel is a dad joke. So I checked the documentary DVD of The Tale of Princess Kaguya. In that documentary, there's an interview of Takahata. But if you look behind him, you see his bookshelf, like right here. Sadly, I found so many books about humor and jokes in his bookshelf. British jokes, everyday jokes, and jokes from the Edo period. I was like, "Takahata-san, so you studied comedy, and this is all you can do?" I really wanted you to see the bookshelf. Too bad it was on Blu-ray. It was hard to extract the picture. It's a must-see though. Tons of books about jokes in his bookshelf. It made me a bit sad seeing them. Takahata is simply too square, really. Okay, now the next topic. How the male characters are scumbags. Many people have pointed that out, and how the movie is seen as dealing with gender issues. One reason for that is because people don't realize Kaguya's supernatural power. You may not get the sense of what her supernatural power is, so this is a fairy tale. And because it's a fairy tale, we tend to take any paranormal phenomenon for granted. But these paranormal phenomena occur under certain conditions. So I have made a list of the paranormal phenomena. First, the supernatural power of Kaguya. Sex and growth. I already mentioned this. When she feels sexual, she grows. Then, her charm. How she can attract men. It's a power that only works on men. She also has Herculean strength, and she can run fast. Then, playing instruments and machine weaving. Then the ability to turn transparent. Last, the ability to fly. Because we see it as a fairy tale, we don't see them as supernatural powers. But they are. The rest on the list are the powers sent from the moon. There are 5 of them: reincarnation, money and dresses, luck, rewinding time, and resuscitation. These also come out in the movie, especially the charm. You really have to understand this ability Kaguya has. Otherwise, you misread the story. So let me start from there. First of all, it's not true that all male characters in this movie are scumbags. Kaguya possesses a special ability called charm, so she can distort the judgments and actions of the men around her. I read this thick book about cosmology back in my elementary school. It was too hard for me to fully understand back then, but the explanation of a gravity field fascinated me. The book said, imagine there is a thin film of rubber stretched 1 meter above the floor inside the entire classroom. You drop a bowling ball onto that rubber film. Then the ball sinks into the rubber. Now imagine there are marbles around the bowling ball. They'd be sucked into the concave. The marbles rolling toward different directions would also dynamically change their courses because of that concave. This is a gravitational field. A strong gravity possesses a force to distort what's around them. Same goes with Kaguya. Her charm power distorts the relationships, desires, or the determination of the people around her. She emits a strong gravitational field. But Kaguya shouldn't be held responsible for what she does because she can't control it. It's almost as if the smell of the silver vine is leaking out from her armpits. If that was the case, of course the cats would go nuts. And if that happened, of course she would end up hating cats. She would think all cats are scumbags. They all come for my armpits. It's neither the cat's fault nor Kaguya's. Cats automatically lose all logic if they smell silver vine. Her charm is portrayed in this movie as something that human beings basically can't resist. It's not a matter of how strong your reasons are. It's irresistible. Any man on the earth is enchanted once they listen to the sound of Kaguya's Japanese harp. It's something they can't fight against as long as they are humans. Now, there's a scene that proves my point. This image. At a glance, they all look identical. This is a scene after 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 55 seconds on DVD. If you have a DVD, please check later. These 5 images are taken from one scene that is 20 seconds long. 20 seconds without any motion? Actually, there is. Let me show you. It's hard to tell. So, inside these circles, a butterfly is flying. Like this. Okay? The only movement in this 20-second scene is this butterfly flying around in the room. Those who know classic Japanese literature should be familiar with a history book called Azuma Kagami that describes butterflies as a symbol of something mysterious or a monstrous being bewitching people. In Chinese literature, butterflies are used to express phantasms. But according to Azuma Kagami, the butterfly indicates that something mysterious will happen now. Takahata thinks all Japanese people should know that indication. 20 seconds of butterfly flying. For him, that's enough explanation to say that these men are all bewitched. I'm sorry, Takahata. That's simply not enough. At this very moment, the five nobles are being bewitched by Kaguya's charm power. Of course, when they first hear about Kaguya and ox cart race to meet her, they were just horny. That's all there was to it. But as they wait to see Kaguya and hear the sound of her harp, they are bewitched, which is explained visually by the butterfly. Since then, they lose sanity. So when Kaguya gives all the impossible demands for 3 years, they show sincerity. One really goes on a long trip. One travels underwater. One risks his life to reach for a swallow's nest that is high up on a building. And one risks all his fortune to try to make a fake item. Sure, they don't look cool, but they surely have great enthusiasm. And that's all because Kaguya has used her charm to bewitch them. Simply put, they are victims, which is hard to tell. Well, Takahata spent a good 20 seconds telling us what happened. If you see the storyboard he wrote, everything starts to look so vibrant, like the stimulating effect of LSD. He actually stated it very clearly on the storyboard that it's some kind of hallucinogenic. But again, it's hard to tell. Some say the old man is also a scumbag because he ignores her hopes and pushes common happiness onto her. So he's like every other man. But the egoistic love the old man shows toward Kaguya is also the result of her charm. The mother is not bewitched. And because she's sane, she treats Kaguya neutrally. On the other hand, the father, the old man, who are bewitched, he just can't stop thinking about Kaguya's happiness. But how he expresses it depends on his childish ideas, like the five nobles. That's because their IQ is lower when they are bewitched by Kaguya's charm. That's why the old man's attempt to make Kaguya happy does not really make her happy. Like the cats who come to a boy for his smell of silver vine, won't make him happy. Her power only applies to men. It doesn't work on Kaguya's private teacher, Lady Sagami, and the village girls act consistently neutral to Kaguya. All the ladies at Kaguya's mansion don't change their attitudes towards Kaguya either. Only the men change. The audience thinks that's because Kaguya is beautiful, but if you pay closer attention, you'll know that some kind of special power is in effect. However, out of all the men who come out in the story, only Sudamaru survives the bewitchment of Kaguya. Kaguya bewitches Sudamaru with her charm power, so that she can, I know it sounds mean, but she tries to run away with Sudamaru. But while they're flying, a huge moon appears and shoots a punishment beam at Kaguya. The moon is like, "Cut it out, Kaguya!" And Kaguya goes, "No!" and falls. Then, what happens to Sudamaru is that, well, there is this amazing superpower sent from the moon that rewinds time. So, Sudamaru remembers it but thinks it didn't happen. But it did. There's even a proof. Then, when his wife and kid come to him, Sudamaru gets rattled and quickly puts his kid on his shoulders. The storyboard says Sudamaru feels guilty, so he doesn't look at his wife in the eyes. And that the wife notices something, but can't say it out loud. So you see how Sudamaru has been saved by the moonlight. It's like a man who survives a vampire attack. There's an exciting dialectic between what is verbally told and what is visually shown. How Kaguya says, "I want to live true to myself," or "that's not my happiness," compared to what she actually does, are intricately interrelated, which is the key to understanding the movie. There are many contextual layers in this movie, which are built so well. Takahata's film surely doesn't disappoint us. I'll spend more time discussing this later. The third power is that she has Herculean strength, and she runs like the wind. This is a famous running scene. It's animated too well. Kaguya hears the men at the banquet saying, "Let us see Kaguya, maybe she's ugly," and runs out of the mansion in rage. We kind of think this expresses the feeling of a cornered woman, but hold on. It's not really that. It's this scene. When the men go, "Okay, let's go take a look." Kaguya is enraged. After that, she goes, "No." Then the scene suddenly becomes a wide shot. Kaguya was playing a shell matching game. It's like the game Concentration. After she gets mad, she breaks the shell, which seems like a natural reaction. But if you see the storyboard, it says the shell is supposed to be too strong to break. It means that humans couldn't break it, but she can. So the right caption for this scene should be, "Are you talking about Kuririn?" Then she finally turns into Super Kaguya. After that, she takes off her kimono and leaves the room. But while she does that, she knocks down 2 sliding doors. You can easily miss those details. Then she breaks a firmly locked door, so she's obviously beyond human. She uses her supernatural power and dashes into the mountain. I really like this scene. Oops, upside down. This scene is so well made. When she runs through the mountain, the moon is out again, and we see Kaguya in rage. First, Kaguya is just running, but eventually she leans forward, then she gets down on her hands and feet. You may not notice it if you see the scene in a flow, but if you pause and examine each cut, you can tell that she's running on her hands and feet at the end. It means that she's turned into a beast. She's probably still a human, but she's running like a werewolf. So, Kaguya, with her greatest power, can break things humans can't break. Then, run like an animal, which is impossible for humans. A fairy tale would treat a scene like this as sentimental, but this one is more real. Next. Her ability to play instruments and weave. Kaguya always hated Lady Sagami's harp lessons. However, when her father arrives, she suddenly starts playing the harp well. Her ability to play instruments is enhanced when she's seen by a man. But her machine weaving skills never improve. That's because the old man is always with Kaguya. So many of Kaguya's abilities are enhanced when there are men around her. You can tell that by looking at each scene. But Takahata directed them so that only the people who look carefully could tell. That's a typical Takahata film. Kaguya learns how to play the harp instantly. I call this scene Moon Crystal Power Makeup. I'm like, what? So you could do anything under the moonlight? Then, the ability to turn transparent. The Emperor visits Kaguya at her mansion. If you see any scene where the Emperor comes out, there is always a dragonfly. Only in his scenes though. Like when he enters Kaguya's room. I first thought they were there to emphasize the fall season. But there is a symbolic meaning to it. Dragonfly shares the same Chinese characters as Akitsushima, an old term for the main island of Japan. And there's a description on Kojiki, or the records of ancient matters, that Japanese islands were formed when dragonflies mated. The dragonflies in the anime symbolize that the emperor is so ready to have sex with Kaguya. Takahata once again expects all Japanese people to get the message. Okay, I enjoy it, Takahata, but that's too much to ask. Not only this movie, but any of Takahata's films, like Grave of the Fireflies, Only Yesterday, and My Neighbors, the Yamadas. All of his works require us to study it intensively, like I do in order to enjoy it. In the questionnaire earlier, 50% of you chose, it wasn't fun to watch. That's because we see Takahata's movies like we see other Ghibli movies that are fun to watch. Since Miyazaki holds himself responsible for his movies being fun, Takahata, on the other hand, doesn't. Instead, he holds himself responsible for his movies being authentic. If Miyazaki is Disneyland, Takahata is Gothic architecture. You shouldn't go to a shrine and expect Disney. Then you'll simply be disappointed. I mean, of course, you won't find any rides there. But we usually expect fun in anime. That's how we end up only analyzing superficial themes and lines. Then you appreciate his animes less. You have to do more to fully appreciate them. I know I've already passed the time to switch to the pay part, but let me finish the list of all superpowers. This one, the Emperor hugging Kaguya. Kaguya screams like she's been attacked by a ghost, like in Kazuo Omezu's horror manga. She's hugged by the Emperor from behind and screams, but I was like, give me a break. When you were a kid, you were delighted to see the frogs doing the same. You caught those frogs. Now it's your turn and you scream? What the hell? That female frog may have hated it as well. Anyway, Kaguya hates the hug so much she becomes transparent and escapes the Emperor. One characteristic of the ability is that when the Emperor promises not to do it again, she becomes substantial again. It means that she's able to control this ability with her mind. So, she's not really a weak woman. She's like this super moon girl who came from the moon. She has so many superpowers that we humans don't have. If we don't see this characteristic, we see her as a weak woman. She's rather a girl who has so many amazing superpowers, but isn't able to live a happy life. I hope you guys can see that aspect. Now, the last power, flying ability. Kaguya flies when she meets Sudamaru, as I mentioned earlier. Let's go back to that scene. When two of them are flying close to the ground, you see an old man praying to a traveler's guardian deity. However, he can't see the two flying. This is another superpower of Kaguya. And there are abilities sent from the moon. Reincarnation is how Kaguya descended to the earth. Next, money and dresses given to the old man. These were gifts given to him for raising Kaguya, but at the same time, he was efficient enough to make full use of the money to build a big mansion in the city only 6 months later, and accommodate Kaguya there. Then, he even succeeds in hiring the first-class private teacher for Kaguya and arranging a matchmaking with the nobles. Those are all beyond his abilities. It indicates that Kaguya can enchant others to perform with supernatural powers as well. Not only money and dresses, but he's also given the fortune to be part of the aristocracy in just 6 months. Luck is another superpower of Kaguya given to the old man. Last, the ability to rewind time and resuscitate. Look at this image. This is the scene after Kaguya runs like a beast. She goes to meet Sutamaru, only to find out that he's been gone for 10 years. She's disappointed and falls down in the snow. Then the fairies from the moon called Hiten gather around Kaguya. When Kaguya recovers consciousness, she's fully dressed again, lying down in the room where she took off. This too makes the previous scene look like a dream, if you see the story as a fairy tale. However, it's daytime when Kaguya loses consciousness. But the reason why you see a moon right here is not because the time has passed and it's the next night. According to the storyboard, Here, Kaguya loses consciousness. Then Hiten, the fairies, start dancing around her. Then time rewinds. It means she goes back to the past in this scene. She actually freezes to death once. She dies. But she comes back to life. Or she's forcefully brought back to life. She doesn't only travel to the past, but she is resuscitated. There's a reason why she doesn't die. Later, Kaguya wonders if everything was a dream. Then she finds the shell that she broke on the floor. It means that everything really happened. It wasn't a dream. Kaguya is invincible. She can't be killed. People on the moon don't age nor die. There's a scene where Kaguya threatens the old man that she'll commit suicide, but she can't die. If she wishes to die, that wish is transmitted to the moon. Then the rescue comes to save her. She can't even die accidentally. That's how immortal she is. By the way, Japanese people say rabbits on the moon are pounding rice cakes. They weren't originally rice cakes. In the original story, the rabbits are making immortal medicine, but somehow the story changed in Japan to how we know it now. Therefore, the moon has been a symbol of immortality. So, Kaguya can't even kill herself. To sum up, considering how Kaguya possesses all these superpowers that allow her to bewitch people, I don't think it's true that all male characters in the movie are scum. They're under control of Kaguya's superpowers, but Kaguya herself is a victim of the powers. The message from the moon to Kaguya is, you have extraordinary powers, so don't stay on the earth, or you'll make everyone there unhappy. So, when your atonement is over, come right back. Otherwise, you'll make more people around you unhappy just by being there. So her return to the moon is pre-planned, but Takahata omitted all that and only stuck to Kaguya's point of view. And Kaguya's got such a narrowed view of the world with her egoistic mind. That way, our vision too is obscured. Just like how Grave of the Fireflies is received as an anti-war film, The Tale of Princess Kaguya is received as a film dealing with gender issues. I wouldn't say Takahata wasn't interested in implementing those issues in this film, but those are not the main themes. Okay, there were more things that I should have talked about in the first half. But I will... Wait. Maybe I will... Okay, 5 more minutes of the free part. Let me just talk about this very quickly. I'll talk faster. I don't think I will finish going over everything today. There's one amazing aspect about the tale of Princess Kaguya. As you know, the original story of the film is the tale of the bamboo cutter. What's most important is that the film changes the protagonist from the old man to Kaguya. Because originally the old man was the protagonist. The original plot is that the old man finds a baby inside a bamboo tree and raises her, but she goes back to the moon at the end. The theme was to portray the sadness and pain of the ones who are left behind. This type of story has been known as Kishu Ryuri Tan in Japanese. Simply, it's a folktale about a young hero's adventure. The main character is either a god or a hero. They are exiled from their home and go on an adventure to overcome trials or atone for the sin. At the end, they become a holy being and return home. It's a common type of myth told all over the world. If we take Star Wars as an example, Anakin Skywalker falls to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader. But Luke Skywalker resists the temptation of following his father, Anakin's path to the dark side, and becomes a hero. So Star Wars is included in this type of story. So the goal of Kaguya is to overcome the trial on the earth in order to become a good deity, atone for her sin, and go back to her world. The old man meets her accidentally, ends up loving her, and dedicates himself to her happiness. But as a result, he has a sad experience. This is the universal structure of this type of folktale. Takahata broke that convention by switching the protagonist from the old man to Kaguya, which was a big switch because while many different versions of the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter were made in the past, no one came up with such an idea. The Tale of Kaguya was Takahata's challenge to redo Only Yesterday, a story about a contemporary woman who's attracted to the city life she sees on TV, lives in Tokyo, but later returns to the countryside. He applies the same structure to the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter in an attempt to dynamically change it. It's also Takahata's version of Raputa. In terms of the structure, not the story. Pazu is the old man, while Shita is Kaguya. So Shita is the protagonist. Then the plot of Raputa gives you a totally different impression. A girl falls from the sky and there is an old man slash Pazu who decides to protect Kaguya slash Shita, but the nobles slash Dola family or the emperor slash Muska try to steal her. And at the end, only Shita returns to the castle in the sky. When she returns, she doesn't say anything nice. She first says something like, humans have to live on the ground. But then when the Levystone emits light, she goes, oh, I was wrong, never mind, and goes back to her castle. It sounds more realistic. On top of that, Takahata never ever empathized with the characters he created. He didn't let his characters speak his mind nor his beliefs. And as I mentioned in my past lecture about Grave of the Fireflies, he also expected the audience not to empathize with them either. That's why we should not seek themes in what the characters say. I will talk more about this in the second half. As I said earlier, Kaguya comes from the world of immortals. There, no one can die. Now, let me talk about Buddhism. Buddha started his path to enlightenment when he found out that there were 4 different types of sufferings. Suffering associated with living, aging, illness, and death. But where Kaguya comes from, these 4 types of sufferings don't exist because no one dies in that world. Coming from such a world, Kaguya perceives life as something joyful rather than suffering. But the only reason why humans have this illusion that life is a joy is because life is limited. The immortals on the moon don't have to have such an illusion because they don't die. You have to understand this major premise, or you won't properly understand the movie. Joy of life is an illusion given only to humans for whom death is an inevitable fate. Because we all die, we have to think like, screw it. How are we supposed to live every day if we don't seek joy in it? It's sinful for Kaguya in the first place to be attracted to the filthy earth. She lives and experiences the filthy life on Earth and wants to go back to the moon at the end. That's her first level punishment, as the subtitle of the movie, Kaguya's Crime and Punishment, suggested. Even if she later reconsiders and wishes, oh wait, let me go back to the Earth. I want to live there. It's like a drug addict temporarily quitting drugs, but starting again. People on the moon would be like, we can't deal with such nonsense. That's how the immortals see our filthy world. What filthy means is that we sometimes have to steal food or kill animals and eat them. Like how they stole melons and killed a pheasant. We live in such a filthy world and die. And because we die, we have to force ourselves to find joy in life. The immortals have a totally different worldview, where they are free from such thoughts. Then, what's going to happen to Kaguya after she goes back to the moon? Well, of course, she will probably stay immortal. But will she sing the children's song every day and cry like that lady who kept singing and crying? Actually, no. The fate that awaits her is even more dramatic. It can be hope or it can be despair. In the second half, I'll discuss how this movie is a major remake of Puella Magi Madoka Magica. I think that's gonna be the most interesting discovery I've made for this lecture, but I had to introduce everything I just talked about in order for you to understand why it's Takahata's version of Madoka Magica. Okay, now the questionnaire. In the second half, I'll dig more into the crime and punishment of Kaguya, and I'll talk about the reason why the baby is there in the last scene. Now, just a brief introduction about the paid part. Basically, the free part and the paid part come in one set. My mission is to give a lecture more worthy than what you pay, which is 5,000 yen per month. So please join. Next week, I'll talk about this old book, The Invisible Hook, The Hidden Economics of Pirates. It's such a fun read, but it's also expensive to buy, so I'll feature this book. Okay, now the result. Oh, great! Only 2% didn't like the lecture. Okay, let's go straight to the second half. Please switch.
Thank you for watching until the end. I am the most famous otaku king in Japan, Otaking Toshio Okada. I started planning to talk overseas about animations and movies popular in Japan in English. Before long, I'm planning to add English subtitles to movie talking in Japanese, so please look forward to it. If you ask a question in this comment field of this video, maybe I will talk about comments as a theme. We welcome the people who are interested in the forefront of Japanese otaku culture, and those who want to hear stories of interesting animations and movies. So please subscribe our channel. If there is good relation, I will get better and I will do my best. Thanks.